Hi there, my name is Umair Rahman, and today I will be giving you a presentation on the reverse engineering product redesign. The product specifically that we are redesigning is a flashlight. It is the uh, Kanker hand pressing power PIG 2 LED flashlight that I'll show you on the next slide. So the first thing that we had to do is we had to take in our customer needs, and the way we did this is through a survey. And the four basic customer needs that or the most popular customer needs that we found out from our survey was that the flashlight could be brighter, it could be quieter, it could weigh less, and that the flashlight size could be smaller. So we then created different tests to correspond to the procedures. I'll detail these tests for you along with other tests that we conducted and the results of these tests. So the first test that we did, test A, was trying to understand how the flashlight worked and to develop a diagram that portrays how it works. And the purpose of this test was to look at every step involved in the functioning of the flashlight that could later be examined to see how different steps of the process could be improved. While this test may not have yielded any quantifiable metrics, it helped us create an activity diagram that you can see on the right, and that could later be referred to when we came up with a proposed redesign. And as you can see on the left, this is the actual product that we were testing and we were trying to redesign. The second test we conducted, test B, produced quantifiable results, unlike test A, and this was the survey that we did to actually get our results or the customer needs that you can see in the table here. The survey had the following 8 questions. What are some good aspects of the flashlight? What were some bad aspects of the flashlight? What are some things that you think need to be improved? Do you think the flashlight is too loud? What is your overall impression of the flashlight? Is the mechanism easy to use? Does the flashlight look good? And in what situation would you use this product? And the purpose of this survey is to understand the customer's perspectives of the product and see what they feel needs improvement. This way we can prioritize the needs of the customers in our redesign and our benchmark tests. And as you can see, that is exactly what we did by prioritizing the customer needs that we found most popular and creating different tests. So now we get into the tests that actually focus on the customer needs. Test C was conducted to determine the brightness of the flashlight in lux. We did this by using a photometer, and the purpose of this test is to determine the intensity of the flashlight's light and to see whether it met the intended specifications for our company. And our results yielded that it was that had a light intensity of 100 lux at 6 inches, or at a distance of 6 inches. The next test, test D, we conducted was a measurement of how loud the flashlight was when the crank was being used. One noticeable disadvantage of the flashlight was how loud it was, and to determine the exact value, we used the sound level meter to determine the volume in decibels, and that came out to be 99.3 decibels. The next test we conducted, test E, was a test to measure the mass of the flashlight and to determine a benchmark for our redesign. While the weight of the flashlight was not a customer complaint, we did want our proposed redesign to be heavier than the original product. Therefore, we used a balance to determine the mass of the original flashlight in grams. And we determined that the original flashlight was just under 100 grams. And the last test we conducted, test F, was in response to customer feedback about the size of the flashlight and how it was a little too big. We measured the circumference of the flashlight with a measuring tape to set a benchmark circumference that our redesign would need to be less than. And the circumference of the flashlight was 5 inches, so we were hoping to get it in about 4.5 inches. So now, going back to the AFQ table, actually, on slide 3, on the right, it summarizes, the test results for tests C, D, and E, which were designed in response to the answers received in response to the survey conducted in test B. And these results helped us define design specifications for a new competitive product. And our new product had to have better performance metrics than the existing product. And this meant that our product had to be brighter, quieter, smaller, and preferably lighter than the original flashlight. Prior to the benchmark tests we had conducted, we created an activity diagram, as you can see to the right, and AFQ table to understand how the flashlight works. Now, after we had conducted our tests, we prepared a sketch to predict how the flashlight's interior would look. What parts were involved, and how each part contributed to the overall function of the flashlight. However, to predict the parts involved and how they function, we first would need to understand the different forms of energy involved and how energy would be converted from one form to another. And to do this, we created a diagram that you can see on your left, and that predicted how each form of energy would be converted to the next and which part would be involved in its conversion. And on the right, you can see the sketch that we had made with the different parts and the prediction of how the parts work together within the flashlight. So we we first made the sketch after completing the diagram that you see on the right, the diagram of energy conversion, and getting a full understanding of the different forms of energy involved. And then we were able to create a predictive sketch, as you can see on the right, of how the flashlight would look before we would eventually disassemble it. The predictive sketch, along with a list of parts we believe would be involved, is on the right. Now, prior to disassembly, we believed that the flashlight converted energy into rotational mechanical energy by utilizing the crank, which would rotate the gears as depicted in the image above. The rotating gears would then rotate a magnet and a coil, which would convert that rotational mechanical energy into electrical energy. The electrical energy would then be transferred along a wire until it is finally converted into light energy in the form of an LED bulb. And that light energy would then be emitted through a lens at the end of the flashlight. We would then move on to disassemble the flashlight to fully understand how it worked. We listed the different components and an exploded view of the disassembled product that you can see on the next slide. So as you can see, we found out that there were a lot more parts than we had anticipated, and after disassembling the product, we predicted the parts we predicted were included in the product, but we did miss out on some parts that were, such as the different types of gears and the tightly wound spring. So by generating a predictive sketch and then creating an exploded view of the disassembled product, we were able to fully understand the parts involved, which would ultimately inform our redesign of the product. One particular way that functional modeling helped our redesign is that we were able to fully understand the parts involved and include them in our proposed redesign. For example, we did not predict that the spring would be involved in the conversion of rotational mechanical energy to electrical energy, but included it in our proposed redesign as a result of the functional modeling. So in the end, after benchmarking, direct testing, and functional modeling, we were able to come up with a design that we would recommend to the manufacturer. The design, as you can see on the left, improved on specific metrics that customers complained about in the initial survey. The new design contained fewer gears to help decrease the sound, more powerful light bulbs to increase the light efficiency, and smaller parts to allow for a smaller enclosure that would ultimately decrease the size and circumference of the product. So the final design of this flashlight works very similar to the original flashlight, includes a hand crank that rotates gears, which uses a magnet to convert the rotational mechanical energy to electrical energy. However, the redesign includes smaller gears and simpler parts, which both helps to decrease the size and the weight of the flashlight. In a second, more complex redesign, as you can see to the right, we included a circuit board and a speaker. The reason we chose this design is because the most common use of a non-battery flashlight is during camping or other outdoor activities that may have limited access to electricity. However, during those situations, it is also possible that you may encounter situations where you might need to create noise, scare an animal, call for help, get someone's attention, etc. So our proposed redesign would improve on the original product in multiple aspects. The first aspect that would be improved is the volume of the flashlight, which would be decreased from 99 decibels to 80 decibels. The second aspect that we improved is the brightness of the light, which would increase from 100 lux at 6 inches to 130 lux at 6 inches. And the last aspect that was improved is the size of the overall product, which would be decreased from a circumference of 5 inches to 4 inches. In the end, we included the same components from the original product, such as gears, crank, wires, light bulbs, LED, motors, switch, and screws, but we added a circuit board and a speaker and used parts with a smaller enclosure to reduce the size of the product. Ultimately, the process of concept selection in this design challenge was very similar to the first design challenge. However, one big difference was that in the first design challenge, we had to create a design without an original product to base our design on, while in the second design challenge, we were able to disassemble the original flashlight and produce a redesign that was largely based on the original one. Thank you for your time, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.